Alright, tonight I've got a chicken breast recipe for you that's going to blow your socks away because it's chicken breast cradled, wrapped lovingly in some bacon, which everybody loves, right? If you love food, you love bacon. What we're going to do is actually stuff the chicken breast. We'll hammer it out. I've got some stuffing made of cheese and spinach. Spinach and bacon go perfectly together. That creates our stuffing. We'll roll the chicken up. We'll wrap the whole thing in bacon. I'll show you how to poach it off so that we get the whole thing cooked through. And then once it's cooked through, we just finish it off right on top of the stove to make that bacon crispy and absolutely delicious. We slice it, and you get very, very cool kind of layered feature with the bacon on the outside, the chicken, and obviously that spinach and cheese filling. It's absolutely perfect combo. Let's go ahead and put it together. Okay, for our spinach and cheese stuffing today, shockingly, we're going to need spinach. We've got a dry pan here. I'm going to throw, what is it, about 3 cups? You know what, why not? 4 cups of baby spinach in there. I'm using quite a bit here because it's really going to cook down. You can cook it over kind of medium-high heat until it's wilted down. Just give it a few tosses. It's not all that important. You need to watch it. You just don't want to really burn anything. Once this is cooked down and tossed, we're going to take it off the heat, let it cool, and then we're going to add some cheese to it. So you can see in just a very short period of time, all that spinach, got down to maybe 3/4 cups worth. It's still pretty wet because there's moisture in there, but it's finished cooking. So I'm going to kill the heat. I'm going to remove this and just let it cool down like on a paper towel, which will wick a lot of that moisture away from the spinach. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up our stuffing for our chicken. I've got the spinach here that have cooled down and just coarsely chopped. I'm going to throw it in with some cheese. Now, I'm using a bit of Gruyere cheese, which is kind of like a Swiss, and you're just going to kind of mix it all together. You could go a whole bunch of different directions. Feta works really well with spinach. Even cheddar, Parmesan, kind of anything you want. What the cheese is really going to do is just kind of melt in there. You're going to hold everything together. Once you get it in, you want to hit it with a little bit of pepper and salt, because one of the key techniques in any cooking is seasoning kind of all the way through, and you don't want the stuffing to taste flat when the chicken tastes nice. Then you have under-seasoned food. Mix that together. You even want to give it a little taste and just make sure you got it right. And this is absolutely fine. You can do this ahead of time, hours ahead of time, and throw it in the fridge, keep it there. Let's go ahead and do the chicken. Okay, so I've got a piece of wax paper down here. You can also use plastic wrap. Actually, plastic wrap works a little better, but I'm out. I've got some water. I'm just going to moisten that paper so we create a little less friction for our chicken breast. Now, I'm going to lay that down and get rid of this paper, which is garbage. I'm going to fold the wax paper over, and now it's time to take out our aggressions. What I've got here, so this is my meat mallet, you can see, bottle of wine. Really easy once it's drunk, of course. Just fill it up with water, and I keep it around because I actually find it's pretty much the best kind of meat mallet out there. What I'm going to do is just gently keep tapping the chicken until it's fully flattened out. And you really want it kind of as thin as you can get it, almost like a 1/4 inch thick. It's probably going to take up, most of this wax paper area, and that's going to enable us to lay the stuffing down and then roll it. It's always better when you're pounding out a chicken breast like this to use lighter, more frequent taps than huge big taps, or you're going to tear a hole in the chicken. Okay, so now comes my favorite part, the bacon part. What I'm going to do, I've got my chicken over here, pounded out. I've got another cutting board with another piece of plastic wrap or wax paper on it. And I'm going to lay out enough of this thinly sliced bacon. I don't like using the thick cut bacon for this recipe because I like the bacon to crisp up pretty quickly while we're cooking it in the pan. I'm going to lay it out, and then I'm going to take our chicken breast here and try and keep this nice and open. Spread out there. If it's got kind of tears like this, don't worry about it. It's all gonna be just fine in the end. You can even kind of take off a piece here, and patch some holes here and there. It'll be totally fine. And then we've got our, what do you call it? That's called stuffing. I'm going to take that and just lay it kind of right down the middle. You can definitely overstuff this, right? If you put too much in, you won't be able to roll up the chicken. But you want to kind of spread it out pretty evenly. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to go wash my hands and we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to roll this up kind of right over on top of itself so that it creates this nice little package surrounded by the plastic wrap. Okay, so I just washed my hands and I just trimmed our plastic wrap so that the end kind of starts near the chicken. And what we're going to do is I'm literally going to just use this to roll the chicken up, fold it over on itself, bring this side to that side. We'll have a little bit of overlap bacon. If you really wanted to, you could trim the bacon as well, but you know what? It helps seal the whole thing together, and a little more bacon is pretty tasty. So we're going to go ahead, kind of press gently as we go, and notice I'm pulling the plastic away as we roll over, while simultaneously kind of tucking in. We pull up a little bit, we roll, we pull up a little bit, and then the chicken comes in and just seals right on itself. That little bacon gives us beautiful overlap. And then now we've got the plastic out here, we've got the plastic there. We can kind of roll that to the end of the plastic sheet. You can bring it towards you, and now we're just going to keep rolling and let the plastic create a nice seal all the way around. Then we grab the ends and we twist the ends on there to create essentially a nice little sealed package. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a sheet of aluminum foil and essentially do the same thing so that we get kind of double protection, because I'm going to take this whole thing and poach it in some simmering water. Okay, so I'm back with our chicken breast here. We've got it wrapped in plastic wrap. Now we're going to essentially do the same thing in our aluminum foil. And what we're really just doing is creating a bit of a barrier so that the water doesn't get inside. And doing the double here absolutely helps. We're going to take this and now move it over to the stove. I've got a pot simmering with just plain old water. So if we were to take our chicken breast here and just throw it right in the pan or right in the oven, what we'd end up with is overcooked bacon and undercooked center of the chicken. So way to solve this, and I gotta say I shamelessly stole this from Gordon Ramsay, is get a pot of boiling water, or simmering water actually. You don't want it boiling, you just barely want it on a simmer. It's perfectly fine if the whole thing is submerged. My pan isn't quite deep enough, but that's okay as long as you can get it covered. You wouldn't want to leave it uncovered, because then you're going to end up with top that is cooked differently than the bottom. But we cover it, we're going to be fine. We're going to let that water just barely simmer and keep it in there for about 20 minutes. That'll be plenty of time to cook it just through. Okay, so about the only thing you want to worry about with poaching like this is you want to make sure that water is just kind of barely on the simmer. If it's on a hard boil, you really risk overcooking the chicken, which is not what you want. And if you've got a situation like I do where it's partially unsubmerged, whatever you call it, then you want to come in about halfway through, which I did, and turn it over just so it cooks as evenly as possible. Once you got that 20 minutes or so done, you want to take the chicken out and just let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes so that we can handle it more easily before we cook off the whole thing on top of the stove in a pan. Okay, we've got our cooked chicken breast right here, and it's usually easier just kind of snip off the ends. We're going to unwrap it. I've let mine rest for 5 or 10 minutes just so it's cool enough to handle, although it's still pretty darn hot. And we remember we've got our 2 layers, so there's the paper towel off, and now we've got our plastic wrap, which slides off as well. Now it is basically cooked through. Some water in there, don't worry about it, not a big deal. Even that bacon's cooked, but it doesn't look too appetizing right now because it's not nice and crisp. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna let it, or I'm not gonna let it, I'm gonna move this right over to a heated pan with a little bit of olive oil on it. We're gonna brown all around, and then we're pretty much ready to go. Okay, we've got our pan over medium-high heat. A little bit of olive oil in there, just enough to coat the bottom. Same pan I cooked the chicken in, didn't even wash it, just rinsed it out and dried it. I did salt and pepper our chicken breast. I'm gonna lay it in there. You want to hear a little bit of that sizzle, but you don't want to make it too hot. Like I said, medium heat. You know, leave it alone until the bacon browns on that side, and then we're just gonna turn it. We're gonna keep turning it until we get the entire thing nicely browned and that bacon rendered out. Okay, so it took me about 10 minutes or so to get it caramelized and cooked through and rendered out all the way around, which is what we're looking for. And once you get that, you want to let it rest. I'm going to remove this, put it on a cutting board, just like any meat. You know, you got to let it rest. You got to let everything kind of settle down for about 5 to 8 minutes or so before we cut into it, which gives us perfect amount of time to come back and turn all those yummy brown bits into an awesome sauce. So I took out just about all the fat in our pan here. There's a little bit left in there. That's perfectly fine. We're going to put the heat back up, and I'm going to deglaze with about a 1/4 cup of Marsala wine. Use a wooden spoon and just scrape up all those yummy brown bits that are on the pan. They'll come up pretty easily with just a little bit of effort. And I'm going to reduce this wine by half, and then we're going to come back and add about the same amount of chicken, or I'm using beef stock. Okay, our Marsala wine is cooked down, and I've got a little bit of beef stock here, or veal stock that I took out of the freezer a couple hours ago. And then we're going to let that melt in there and also reduce down by half. And then we'll just finish up our sauce. Alright, so we're pretty well reduced down here. This has got maybe another minute or two. I'm going to give it a little taste. You should definitely taste that sweetness from the wine, richness from the beef stock. This could use a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And if you have like fresh herbs, like a rosemary would be really nice in there as well. By all means, you can do that. So now I'm going to turn off the heat. And if you ever over reduce, you can always just add a little bit of water or beef stock back to it. I'm going to throw a tab of butter in there. That's maybe a tablespoon. Again, off the heat, and just let that melt in, and that's going to thicken the sauce and give it a nice glossy finish. And since we've been letting our chicken rest, we can go ahead, cut that, and plate it up. Okay, let's go ahead and slice up our bacon wrapped stuffed chicken. And you can see as we open it up, we've got that inner layer there wrapped nicely in bacon. I like to slice, you know, just slightly on the bias, if you can do it. Ooh, I got a little bit of oohing and gooing here. That's perfectly okay. And then let's go ahead, once I get one more cut, let's serve it up with our sauce. Alright, so here we've got our chicken, stuffed chicken, a little bit of rice and roasted Brussels sprouts, which I'm serving mine with. And then our sauce. You don't want to cover too much of that beautiful layered chicken, but just drizzle right around the edges there. And I think you are going to absolutely love this dish. We'll clean it up, and I will see you next time on No Recipe Required. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that bacon wrapped stuffed chicken breast. It was a blast making, and I really loved it. One of the things I'll point you to is those Brussels sprouts that I made. Caramelized Brussels sprouts, one of the perfect side dishes that that I think go with just about anything, and really simple to make. Give my channel a subscribe. I'm putting out these videos every single week. Always something new, but something simple, because I'm just cooking for my family, and I don't have time for complexity. So I hope to see you again on No Recipe Required.